All right, guys, today, pretty simple. We're going to make some char cloth. Stick with me here. I'll go through just a little bit of basics and we'll discuss how we're going to proceed with this. So stay tuned. Okay, very simple. We got us 100% cotton material here. And this is stuff you can get at some hardware stores. They got the cardboard boxes. They usually got like just randomly cut width and length size of just 100% cotton scrap recycled cloth. And that's what we're going to use. And we have us your classic traditional Altoid tins for this. I've seen a lot of videos where people did not have to puncture a hole in this, so I'm going to roll with that. I'm going to attempt this without putting a hole because we do have some. It's not perfectly sealed, so gases should be able to escape out around this, especially back here near the hinges. So that's what we're going to do. Now you can do this at home. Before you get to a little campfire, you can pre-cut your squares. Use scissors, especially if you want, relatively make it easier for you to cut this in dimensions that you want. Half-inch squares, half inch by half inch are good, or an inch by inch. But I'm going to take my knife and we're going to cut this on a scrap flat board I got here on a little stump. So I'll take you down there and get right to it. All right, guys. We're going ahead and get this guy started. What I'll probably do is I'm going to just cut this at the width I want, then we'll worry about the length after I get my width. That looks good. Cut that bad boy. Now I'm probably just going to simply cut that in half. That should be plenty big enough per piece that I'm going to worry about here. I'm going to probably put, I'm going to say maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 pieces in this maybe. We'll see what it looks like after we get 10 in there. So right now that's 2. Let's cut us another one. This is going to get a little bit wider as I go due to the nature of the cloth that I'm working with, but it's no big deal. And this is not super thin, so after this chars up, I'm hoping that this one will have a little bit more meat to it, and that'll help. Once an ember gets on that, will help it last longer, if you will. There we go. That's 4. So it's got the edges all rolled up here. This gets long enough, I can actually cut 3 squares. 5, 6, 7. One more here. It's going to be a fairly long piece. So. Eight, 9, 10, and 11. That'll work just fine. That will very well fill up our tin. I'll try to get these unrolled. I want them a little bit more laying in there, a little flatter. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to get a fire made, and we'll get this bad boy on the flames, or coal bed to be more specific. All right, guys, let's check her out. I think that'll work. Now then, I've got this. Let's readjust there. Really old Zippo, or not Zippo, Bic. So we just got a bit of an anemic spark, and this should be more than enough to catch this. So let's try it. Oops, getting a little hot. There we go. So minus the one that we use for our example here, we now have got 10 more pieces and they're ready to go. And by any standard of measure, that should mean 10 more fires. Now, real quick, reset the camera for you guys. Okay, so we did not have to puncture our 10, which is great. Now, the lid is really loose now, but from the metal expanding and stuff, contracting when it cooled, I expect that. So a simple solution to that would be Ranger band, hair tie, wire, tape, whatever, to keep it sealed until you're ready to use it. But good thing is, since we don't have a puncture hole in this, and like I said, we just put a rubber band or something of nature around it, throw it in our pack, less likely for us to get char dust on our gear, that's whatever surrounding this thing. Or in lieu of that, if you feel the need, you can put it in a Ziploc bag, whatever the case might be, if you have one. But now, when you do have this, now you want to have this stuff made and put in whatever you're going to carry it in before you go out. You don't want to have to try to make this a habit. When you're in the situation where you need it, and once you do get that fire going, now would be the time, if you're out there and you don't want to sacrifice, say, a piece of your shirt or a bandana, and that's when the previous one I did for making char, we used this pumpkin wood here. Now, what you would want to do, if you can't find this, look for other plants that have pithy centers. They'll work just as well. And once you get your fire made with that resource, and then be a good time to make some of this. You got plenty of extra space in that tin. Throw several little chunks of this in that little tin. Get it back there on your coals. Let that char up and keep replenishing your supplies. And you can carry a fire steel or anything modern that throws a spark. Like I said, it has no fuel left in it. It has quite a few spark strikes left, or you can just buy an actual spark striker. Ferrocerium rod will even work. That way you can take one tiny little scrape off that ferrocerium rod to get your ember on a selected piece of your charred material, and that will increase the longevity even of a ferrocerium rod, which they last a long time, but if you can make it last even longer, all the more better. Now, these techniques really come in handy, like in lieu of, say, having some solar ignition is always an awesome idea. But let's say, you're out in the winter, or, you're late autumn, and it's really cloudy, it's been fairly damp, yada, 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 you know how it goes. Having these type of things in lieu of even your homemade fire starters, like I make with, the beeswax and some petroleum jelly. You can use, say, one of those or half of one or whatever you think you need to get your fire going. And then having something small like this, it's a lot easier to carry. Keep up making your char material for consecutive fires, and that will help you save on fire starting resources. Now, the only real trick to this is you have to get really good tinder, dry, a lot of it, fluffy. You know, you'll want something that can really take a fire. So that's another disadvantage versus, let's say, the homemade fire starters. Now, I do think that charring something like this, even if you can get it smaller than this, I'll just say we'll break that literally in half. So you had this whole little chunk here charred up. This is far more substantial than that piece of cloth. And once that takes an ember, it's going to be a nice big fat ember, and that will give you more time, more heat, more energy to help blow fire into, a tinder bundle, bird nest, whatever you want to call it, that's, not optimal. So when at all possible, when you start doing your fire kits, keep in mind that there's always going to be a pretty realistic chance if you're out there, and the day that you do get in that survival scenario, you're not going to have what you need. Like another good example, and I think I mentioned this clear in my very first introduction video, always got a couple of these in my back pocket. And sometimes it's just for whittling if I'm bored, or maybe I just want to randomly make a spoon, or most importantly, this thing is dry, and that's a decent little bit of wood to get me a fire started. And I can take a knife, I can make a lot of fine shavings off this thing. Not quite enough there to a whole bunch of feather sticks, but it can be split up into smaller pieces. Yet I can get me some fairly thin, longer pieces, and then I can make some fine shavings, or even take the 90-degree spine off of something, whether it be a saw or a multi-tool, the back edge of a knife. Scrape really fine powder, or not quite so powdery, but fluffy little pieces off of this guy. Then I can use that to help get my tinder bundle going. So it'd be like a progressive step. I sacrifice some of this and find the most driest resources I can find where I'm at. And if I'm lucky, maybe I can find some cedar bark, get some of that inner fluffy cedar bark, get that nice and fluffed up, even if it's slightly a little bit damp. I can use some of this to help once what I make off of this absolutely bone dry stick gets going from the ember that I had with char. Then that heat will be bigger, stronger, and then that fluff ball I've made, bird's nest tinder bundle I'm trying to blow into flame, has a way greater chance to actually ignite. So you got to learn to kind of finesse things. Now I can come out with, the cotton balls that I make up. I always usually got quite a few of those on me if I know I'm going out. Point of fact being that is a more guaranteed way to make fire, and that's like I'm in a dire emergency. I don't have much time to even attempt to do all the other stuff. I just need to grab small twigs and some bigger stuff to get the fire started. And then, we'll use that petroleum jelly wax blend cotton ball fire starter, because I know I can get 5 to 8 minutes of burn time off of that, and it's hot, very hot, and I know for sure I'm going to get a fire. But I'd like to reserve those for dire emergencies. So, and if I'm possibly capable, I want to take natural resources to do my initial fires at the very least. And then, like I said, I'm starting out with, I don't even need to start out with that little. If I'm going to take this 10 out with me, I can make sure this thing is just stuffed full. All kinds of little chunks of these cotton pieces charred up, and maybe even some of those chunks of the punky wood. This log right here in front of me that I kind of use for an anvil out here for some of the stuff. I can, that's quite a valuable resource to have out here. All right, guys, we'll get this video cut here. I could go on and on about it, but I think everybody gets the gist. It's about proper preparation before you even leave your door. We got front door, Make sure you have all your bases covered. You don't need great big heavy duty kits all the time, but just the ability to be assured to make shelter and fire should be two very serious considerations, because exposure can kill you really quick. Where we know water, depending on your environment, like out here where I live, you go maybe 4 days. But out here in the late fall, early, mid, late winter, the weather where I live will absolutely kill you. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if you do not know how to properly, for one, before you leave the house, clothe yourself, make a shelter, make a fire. If you don't know how to do them things, and you're really up against it if you do get into an emergency situation out here in the middle of the wilderness. But with that, guys, I appreciate you watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in another one.